1, 2. Can you hear it now? 1, 2.
2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Lovely. Sounds great. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome all of our guests here today to this hugely momentous and exciting announcement for Irish cricket. I would particularly like to extend a very warm welcome to Minister of State for Tourism and Sport, Brendan Griffin TD, John Tracy from Sport Ireland. Before we get into today's press conference, I think it's only apt and appropriate that I read one of over 200,000 tweets that the people of Ireland sent yesterday. This was from a former great of Irish cricket, Kyle McCallan, and I read, "Had to pull the car over, can't see through the tears. Today, the dream has come true. Congrats to everyone involved with at Ireland Cricket." Ladies and gentlemen, that's how big today is. There will be two speakers today, Minister Brendan Griffin and Cricket Ireland Chief Executive Warren Dootram. Their speeches will be followed by a questions and answers session with esteemed Irish internationals Ed Joyce and Andrew Balbirnie and Warren Dootram. After proceedings, there will be an opportunity for one-on-one interviews upstairs and possibly a glass of champagne or two or three or four. In terms of housekeeping, please note that the emergency exit is behind the stage to your right, and I would also be grateful if people could ensure that their phones are turned to silent. Please find a press release on your seat with further information on today's announcement. Unfortunately, on Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar TD cannot be with us today due to government business in Brussels. But he did take time out to send us his warm wishes. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is his very special message.
Full membership of the ICC, and Ireland now has test status. As a sports fan, as a cricket fan, and as head of government as Taoiseach, I'm really delighted because this is just such great news. Great news for cricket, great news for Irish sport, and great news for Ireland. Congratulations. I just wanted to record a short message to congratulate Cricket Ireland on some really good news. The fact that you full membership of the ICC and Ireland now has test status. As a sports fan, as a cricket fan.
And thank you very much, Taoiseach. I would now like to invite the Minister of State for Tourism and Sport, Brendan Griffin TD, to the podium.
Well, thanks very much for the very kind invitation here today. This is actually my first official function as the Minister of State for Tourism and Sport, so what a function to get. Some ministers in the past have got protests to go to as their first functions. I got this. So talk about landing on your feet. And the other thing about becoming a minister as well is they give you a speech to read at the event. Previously, when you're a backbencher, you write stuff in the back of your hand and on your arm and everywhere else you can fit words. So we're very organised today. I want to first and foremost welcome my fellow Oireachtas members here, Deputy Alan Farrell and Senator Neil Richmond, who are here in the front row. I've been trying to avoid them since Tuesday because they've been trying to kidnap me and bundle me into a boot of a car and bring me to Malahide to show me the setup there since I was appointed minister. They've been burning my ear, so I assure you, I absolutely am hearing you and will do my best to assist you. I want to welcome John Tracy here from the Sports Council and the CEO of Cricket Ireland, Warren Dootram, and also our friend here from Turkish Airlines as well, your sponsor. And it was lovely meeting you earlier, and thank you all very much for having me. On behalf of the Taoiseach, Varadkar, who we've just heard from, Minister Ross, and myself and the entire government, I really want to congratulate Cricket Ireland on this wonderful, wonderful achievement. It really is fantastic. And to feel the buzz that's in the room and around the place today is just really fantastic. And looking at Twitter last night and looking at the feed and just looking at other social media, it really is clear that cricket is on the up in this country, and it has really, really reached a very special point now. And I suppose as someone who grew up on the Dingle Peninsula in County Kerry, I mean, we certainly never saw a cricket bat in that part of the country. We didn't even see a hurley. That's football country down there. But that has changed. And that has changed. And from when I was a child in the 80s and 90s, things have moved on an awful lot. And I see now we have a County Kerry Cricket Club now as well near Tralee, established and doing great work. And that's wonderful to see as well. So things are moving on, and cricket is certainly on the up in Ireland. And as Minister, I certainly want to help that effort now as well, and do the very best I can possibly do. And also as well to help the great work of the foot soldiers, the frontline people, the volunteers who for years and years and years are working on a voluntary basis on the ground, on the grassroots, and for whom I know that this is a very special occasion as well. And I want to pay tribute to those people, because they are the unsung heroes, and they're the ones without whom any of the elite athletes or anything else could happen. So I want to pay special tribute to those people today. I think it's very important. I think the significance of today's event is also really can be seen by the huge amount of media that's here. Usually the only time you see this much media around the politician is when there's a scandal breaking, or or around the sports event where you have lots of suits is where there's a scandal as well. So it's really impressive to see this amount of media coverage. And I know that yesterday's announcement got massive global exposure, and hopefully today's event as well will also get global exposure, which it deserves, because this is really important and this is a milestone, and it's really setting us up there amongst the top nations in the world, and it deserves all of the exposure it gets, and it's really positive. And I suppose the standard now amongst which the Irish players, some of whom I was delighted to meet here beforehand, will be playing, is the very highest now in the world, and I'm sure you'll be well able for it, and you'll be well up there. And you've shown in the past, if we look back at 2011, 2015, for example, against the West Indies and our neighbours across the water in England, you can do it, and any time at all. And I'm sure there'll be great days ahead for the cricket team, and it's one that as an entire nation we'll all be getting behind, and I'm sure we're going to see really great days ahead. I just want to say as well, I think that having the test status is a massive boost as well to the grassroots. And it's something that, as a father of two small sons, age 4 and 2, maybe, whereas in the past, sports like cricket wouldn't have been on the agenda in terms of the sports you experiment with and play. It will be the case now, and it will be the case in households all over Ireland. And that will only lead to very positive results, I think, and that's very exciting for us all. So I'm not going to keep you too long. All I will say is that outside of the sporting achievement, what this does for us in terms of our relations with the Asian subcontinent and the billions of people with whom maybe to date we haven't had that much contact is really good for Ireland overall. And it really will help us outside of the sporting field to actually improve our international relations with so many different countries. And don't let that be lost in you as well, that your achievement outside of the sporting field is much greater as well. And I think it will help us to maintain and build relations with so many more people, and that's really a good thing for Ireland. And so finally, as a minister who's only in place for 3 days, what I do want to say to you is that you've come a very long way, but I know you also want to go a lot further. And as minister, I certainly want to work with you and to assist you and to do everything I can possibly do through my role to ensure that happens, because you clearly deserve this and you clearly are achieving at the very highest level, and that deserves governmental support, and I will certainly do my very best to help you to do that. So well done. It's a pleasure to be here, and I would love to join you for the 2, 3 or 4 glasses of champagne upstairs. Well, unfortunately, I have to drive back to Kerry this evening. We have matters of constituency to look after as well, but hopefully on another occasion I will do that, and I will join in celebrations, because I'm sure there are great celebrations ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister, for those kind words. And it was a real privilege to have you with us today to join on this fantastic occasion for Ireland and for Irish sport. And I'm now delighted and thrilled to introduce a man who has worked tirelessly for this day. He is the Chief Executive of Cricket Ireland. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Warren Dootram.
Wow, thank you very, very much indeed. I'm humbled. Minister, I'm going to apologise in advance. I'm also going to mention Malahide. Minister of State for Tourism and Sport, Brendan Griffin, John, our friend from Sport Ireland, sponsors, members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Last month, we held a dinner the night before our historic match against England at Lord's Cricket Ground in London, which I said that Irish cricket is crossing a Rubicon. Well, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we crossed it. By becoming a test-playing nation and full member of ICC, to say that again, test-playing nation and full member of ICC, we have completed one stage of a journey that has taken Irish cricket from marginal and mostly ignored to one of the premier nations in the world's second biggest sport. And it's a journey that has been travelled with remarkable speed. Just 10 years ago, our then new corporate strategy outlined one of its key goals as being competitive in England's county club competition. Last month, that team faced England itself twice in 3 days, the latter in front of nearly 25,000 people at the most famous cricket ground in the world. And we did so as an untested draw card in the UK market. In England's busiest ever season, in the month of the year hardest to sell cricket. And then we hosted 6 matches in Dublin between Ireland and 2 of the world's best teams in New Zealand and Bangladesh. For the best part of a fortnight, 40+ hours of cricket coverage was shown on air sport in Ireland and in key economic and tourist hubs like the US, Canada, Sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, and Australia. In all, during those ODIs in May, nearly 60 million people in 128 territories watched our national cricket team. Globally, the visibility of this Irish national team dwarfs that of any other Irish sport and, arguably, any other Irish cultural export outside of Riverdance. In India, soon to be the world's most populous nation, not many have heard of Bono or Brian O'Driscoll, but they have heard of Kevin O'Brien and William Porterfield. When he was Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport, the Taoiseach spent a couple of days in India during the 2011 World Cup, not long after we had beaten England in one of Irish sport's most famous upsets. He wrote a couple of days later in the Daily Mail that the victory over England had raised Ireland's profile in India immeasurably. Not the profile of the cricket team, the profile of the entire nation. My point is that Irish cricket has proven itself as a contributor, both to the growth of our sport globally, through participants, eyeballs, and market share, the economist's language, and also to Ireland PLC. It's no coincidence that cricket is the second biggest Irish sport on social media, outstripping even GAA and Irish football. You'll forgive me, it sounds like I'm laying it on a bit thick, but I do so because cricket has perhaps always needed to shout that little bit louder. Why? Because we're not Big Three and we're non-Olympic. So we've always had to work a little bit harder to be noticed, to be covered, to be funded. But rather than blame others, we look in the mirror and we take it upon ourselves to drive forward. Our first opportunity came in the 2007 World Cup in the Caribbean, when our team of part-time postmen, farmers and fabric salesmen catapulted Irish cricket onto the world stage. And the Irish back pages by beating Pakistan and Bangladesh. That one moment in time, that demonstration of self-belief by a talented group of players and a passionate coach inspired us off the pitch to be better and ask ourselves one question, very simply, how do we do this again? Well, we did it again by investing in our shop window, the men's team, to capitalize on the golden chance gifted to us by those heady days in the Caribbean. That narrow focus resulted in continued success on and off the pitch, evidenced in rankings, participation numbers, commercial growth, and media profile. A decade before Minister Griffin's predecessor called for better governance in Irish sport, we took it upon ourselves to transform our governance, incorporating the business, slimming down our board, and recruiting independent directors with specialist skills. They told me the turkeys wouldn't vote for Christmas, but they did. The model embraced by Cricket Ireland 10 years ago is now held up as an example of best practice across world cricket, Irish sport, and in the UK. They also said we couldn't repeat our World Cup heroics, but we did, twice more, in 2011 and 2015. They also told us we wouldn't get 10,000 people to watch a game of cricket in Ireland, but we did. They also said we wouldn't get cricket into schools. Well, we have, and it's now played in 60 primary schools in Dublin alone. They said we would struggle, to attract major partners. Well, our men's team is now sponsored by one of the world's major carriers in Turkish Airlines. And they said we wouldn't become a test nation. Ladies and gentlemen, every time we set ourselves a mountain to climb, we do so. We've always believed that the shame is not in failing to reach an ambitious target, but rather being afraid to try. And having proven our credentials to the world cricket community, we now have the opportunity to achieve an even bigger goal, which is to make cricket mainstream in Ireland. In the last 4 years, we have rapidly realized that producing a competitive test team is in fact only one part of a much bigger whole. That instead our goal needs to be broader and further reaching, that it needs to envision Ireland not just being a major force in cricket, but cricket becoming a major force in Ireland. When we think of major in Ireland, we think of GAA, rugby and football. Well, why not cricket? The number of people playing, following, watching, attending, broadcasting, writing about, sponsoring, working in and consuming Irish cricket has exploded in 10 years. And it is our job in Cricket Ireland to foster that growth from the playground to the test arena, to demystify cricket for the uninitiated or maybe even for the skeptical, to nurture it and help it to grow, both where it is already seeded and where it is yet to flower. And we do that by making it visible, by putting in place pathways for our most talented kids, by making it accessible and affordable, by making it inspiring. Ambitious? Certainly. Impossible? Well, only if we lack the vision to try. If the last 10 years have taught us anything, it's that our reach should exceed our grasp, and that we can scale previously unthinkable heights if we set our minds on it. I'd like to quote a line from the Taoiseach's speech the night he won the leadership election, in which he said, "I hope any child growing up looks at me and my unlikely story and my background and believes there is no office in this state that they cannot aspire to. Nothing you cannot do if they believe in themselves." Well, Irish cricket also has an unlikely story, but by believing in itself, it has reached the pinnacle of the world game and can now regard the epithets foreign and minority as the lazy labels that they are. It's now played by more than 52,000 men and women, boys and girls, able-bodied and disabled, Irish and non-Irish, from Limavady to Limerick, from Laois to Lurgan. Cricket is arguably representative of the new Ireland like no other sport. The opportunities opening up in the world game in terms of financial distribution from ICC, and a commercial platform of predictable fixtures have the capacity to transform Irish cricket. But even though the game granted us this privilege yesterday, we're not a fully formed major sport today. We still have just 30 members of staff, not 200. We'll still have venues with limited permanent infrastructure, and we'll still rely hugely upon volunteers to keep the show on the road. To our wider cricket family, this new status isn't just a victory for Cricket Island, rather... Excuse me 1 second. Problem solved. Let me start that again. Can you wind back a little bit, please? Thank you very much. To our wider cricket family, this new status isn't just a victory for Cricket Island, rather, it's a victory for Irish cricket. It will take time for us to transition properly to full membership, and we would ask for your patience while we get there. But rest assured, we shall get there, and we shall remain faithful to our strategy, which outlines progress, not just for the top of the game, but also for our clubs and schools. Yes, we've made strides, but we're not there yet, and it will require years of patience and investment to realize the potential ICC sees in us. And our most pressing priority is in facilities. We're laying the groundwork for many of these developments in Malahide and at the National Sports Campus, but we are way behind the established nations, and even some of our rivals such as Afghanistan, who already boast big permanent SETA stadiums and regional academies. It will cost us at least €6 million to build ICC-compliant permanent infrastructure in Malahide alone, and another $1 million to take our facilities at the National Sports Campus to the next stage. So yes, another mountain to climb, and one that will require more than just Cricket Island funding to realize. But once again, I believe we'll get there by partnering with those who are already part of our family, and by hoping to engage with those who aren't, by telling our story to new friends in Ireland and new friends overseas. In fact, anyone moved to help us punch above our weight on the world stage. Ladies and gentlemen, after 10 years at the helm, having started as the chief and only executive in an office smaller than the Irish canoeing and community games offices next door, you may feel, you may ask, how do I feel today? Well, the corporate suit in me will tell you about just reward for years of success on and off the pitch, and patient diplomacy and relationship building with key stakeholders. The human being in me, however, is just bursting with pride. Pride because we're here on merit, pride because of how much we've achieved together, pride because how far we have come in such a short space of time. I'd like to recognize the wonderful generosity of those that have captured in that we I said earlier on. Today's hosts, the Irish Aviation Authority, our family of commercial partners, the Irish Government and Sport Ireland, as well as ICC, our board, our committees, our members, our volunteers and our supporters, many of whom I'm delighted to see here today. Thank you for supporting us. All of you play a significant part in our story, and you are all a big part of our success. I'd also like to recognize my own team in Cricket Island. As much as any of those whom I have mentioned, my staff have made Irish cricket what it is today, comprising the best administration in Irish sport, making an associate member look like a full member, making 30 look like the 200. To our coaches and players, men and women, past and present, who for so long have been the on-field inspiration for our endeavours and successes off the field. To our chairman, Ross McCollum, still in London, our first ever representative on the ICC board, a man who seems to work 25 hours a day and has played a vital part in convincing the ICC and its most powerful members that our argument deserves to be heard and rewarded. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, today marks 9 years to the day that our dear colleague John Wright passed away. John, along with other great men of Irish cricket such as Derek Scott, Bob Kerr and John Caldwell, were the custodians of Irish cricket long before I came along. I think that it's appropriate today to remember those who, as much as anyone, helped to secure yesterday's remarkable achievement. I've no doubt they'll be looking down and smiling today. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, everywhere I look in Irish cricket, I see people with the talent and the desire to succeed on the field of play and off it. I see accomplished players, talented youngsters, dedicated volunteers, passionate administrators, generous sponsors, and a growing profile. I see a desire for success, a burning self-belief, and a willingness to innovate and embrace best practice. With all this in place and the game finally ready to embrace change, where might we be in the next 10 years? Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Warren. We're now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a panel discussion. And to join us on our panel today, we have Warren Dootram, we have Ed Joyce, who is fresh from scoring his 18,000th first-class run. Whilst hitting 156 in a three-day interprovincial for Leinster Lightning against the Northwest Warriors. And I'm also delighted to welcome Andrew Balbirnie, who is who of course has represented Ireland from under 13 level and captained the Irish under 19s at their World Cup in 2010. I suppose my first question is to you, Ed. You left county cricket to play here at home in the newly graded first-class competition and focus on representing Ireland. With Test cricket now a certainty, how excited are you by yesterday's momentous announcement?
Well, it's unbelievable, really, to think. You know, back to what Warren said, when I first played for Ireland, the idea of playing Test cricket was fanciful, really, I think. And to get to the stage where we're actually there is incredible. You know, we all kicked up a little bit of a stink in 2011 and 2015 on social media and other ways about, you know, maybe the lack of opportunity we had, and I don't think we ever thought that something like this would come around so soon. I think we were all sort of probably thinking around 2020 or, you know, early 2020s, you know, but to have this happen in 2017 is absolutely brilliant. And, you know, just from my point of view and probably from the players' point of view as well, I'd just like to thank obviously Warren and Richard and Ross and all the volunteers and everyone who've got us to this stage. So we're all very proud, and just personally I'm extremely happy.
Thank you, Ed. What I'd like to do now is open questions to the floor. Claire has a mic. If anyone would care to ask a question to any of our panel, please raise your hand and fire ahead with your questions. So, anyone like to start the ball rolling, please? We have over here, Claire.
Sorry, really, it's not a question. It's just on behalf of Educate Together and all the children in the Educate Together schools, I'd just really like to congratulate you all on getting this far, and to thank you and the staff and the coaching staff who are doing such a tremendous job in promoting cricket at primary school level throughout the country. I think it's fantastic, and I think all the school children will be really delighted that if they pursue a career in cricket, then they can have a realistic opportunity to compete at the highest level in their own national colours. I think it's fantastic, and thank you very much.
Hi, Warren. Can I add my congratulations? Just one question about your speech. You mentioned the deficit of 6 million in funding in order to create a national stadium at Malahide. Obviously, you have the minister here and a couple of parliamentarians. First, what would you like to say to them? But secondly, how much funding is there in place, and how much do you need from central government in order to make that happen?
There was no error about making the references to Malahide. Obviously, I knew my colleagues were going to be here today. I think it would be inappropriate to put them that much further on the spot than we already have. But Minister was generous enough to say during his speech and in advance to me that he wants to be supportive of Irish cricket. I laid out some figures there today. Those figures aren't going to be 100% accurate. They're figures from a while ago. But certainly, it's terrific now that we know that we're pushing at an open door. And I'm sure I look forward to commencing those discussions in the very near future.
Next question, ladies and gentlemen. Anyone like to pose a question to Balbo or to Ed? Any further questions? Gentleman behind you, Claire.
Ed, I guess this must be an occasion where you're delighted that you switched back from playing for England to playing for Ireland. Does that focus come into your thinking today?
The decision to come back and play for Ireland wasn't based around Test cricket, to be perfectly honest. It was more around the fact that I felt I had only maybe 1 or 2 years left of playing, and I wanted to play for my own country in a World Cup. You know, I sort of looked on at 2007 jealously, if I'm being honest, because of, you know, being an Irishman and seeing Ireland do so well there. You know, I wanted to be part of that, and I was obviously playing for a different team. So I saw 2011 coming around, and I was, you know, asked by Phil Simmons, the coach then, and Warren to come back and play, and it was a bit of a no-brainer for me. But so that was the reason to come back playing. But to still be playing in 2017 and potentially be around maybe when this first Test match comes around, depending on when that is, obviously is a fantastic thought.
Gentleman here, Claire.
Question for Andy. Andy, obviously you've represented Ireland right through from under 13 all the way up, and now you have the opportunity to represent Ireland on the Test stage. Which international Test bowlers are you most looking forward to facing?
Tough question. Depending on the venue, I suppose I don't know if I'd fancy any of the Sri Lankan or Indian spinners on day 5, but fortunately, you know, I feel very much a small jigsaw in this puzzle. But I've got to play in a couple of World Cups and face some of those bowlers. You know, your Dale Steins, your Ashwins, your Wahab Riazes. So I've had a taste of that in a relatively young, not young, but a relatively short career in international cricket. And the fact that, you know, we've got this status now, it kind of just makes you more hungrier to compete at that level more regularly, and to be able to do that in the Test match arena will be fantastic. And, you know, I'd take on anyone, to be honest, to be able to play Test cricket. I'd take on Mitchell Stark in Perth if it meant playing a Test match for Ireland. So I couldn't care less as long as I'm playing Test matches for Ireland.
Well said. I think, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the questions and answer session. And may I take this opportunity to thank you for joining us today. It's been a great honour to host today's press conference, and like everybody involved in Irish cricket, I can't wait for the exciting times to come. Thank you everybody for coming along today, and let's all join together and toast this amazing day for Irish cricket. And I think we have something on the way for everybody. Now, gentlemen, I'll pass that to the top table, and whoever wants to cork that, feel free to do so. Yeah. I'm going to take it. I will in 1 sec, Warren. Yeah. Could I ask everyone to be upstanding for a moment, please? The toast, ladies and gentlemen, is Cricket Ireland coupled with Test status. Well done. Well done, Warren. Cheers. Well done. Well done, lads. Well done. Sluncher. Well done. Whee! Ladies and gentlemen, could I just say, I hope you all enjoyed the rest of your afternoon, and thank you for attending. Good afternoon.